You're listening to the Desert Moon Hockey Podcast with Matt and Rich. Welcome back to episode 36 of the Desert Moon Hockey Boo. Oh my goodness, you got me.
ASU!
Desert Moon Hockey Podcast for Coyotes related information.
Hey, this is a Desert Moon Hockey Podcast.
Okay.
Desert Hockey.
Okay.
Right? We're going to talk a little Tucson Roadrunners for 5 seconds. We're going to talk some ASU. We're going to talk some Atlanta Gladiators, because that's desert hockey.
Okay, all right. I don't think Atlanta Gladiators are desert hockey, but they may be owned by desert hockey, so I'll give you a pass there.
They're affiliated with desert hockey.
Yeah, there you go.
They did buy them and move them to Prescott Valley. I'm not going to complain, but I am keeping that powder blue Atlanta Thrashers inspired jersey, because that thing is gorgeous.
Yep. Yeah, that is a pretty gorgeous jersey. On today's episode, we have a little bit to talk about. Obviously, you just got a hint of all the teams that we have information-wise. I'm sure if you're catching up with the news, you'd know what we're talking about. I guess start off with what Matt's wearing, which is ASU hockey. ASU hockey.
ASU. Yeah.
Upsetting number 2 Minnesota, the team that has Logan Cooley on it tonight. This is being recorded.
Logan who?
Logan who? Yeah, he only had what 4 points in this series or something like that.
No, he only had that stupid effing
Michigan goal.
Michigan goal.
Yep.
He hates it, and I almost call it the Minnesota. But you know what? Today he had an assist on the first goal for him. I'm double checking real quick right now. Matt Nyes, I think, had 2 assists. Cooley had 2 assists. And who?
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm just saying, I see Joshua Doan right there, and I see Robert Mastrosimone right here. So I'm gonna jump into it. I'll take over.
Wait.
I don't think you. What?
Let me finish the topics that we have. Let me quickly. All right. And then we can hop into ASU hockey. All right. I'm gonna speed run these right now. So we're also gonna talk about the Roadrunners and how well they're doing. They're an absolute wagon this year down the AHL. And also some really competitive games coming out of the Coyotes this week as well. All right, with that being said, Matt, now that I've speed ran this, you can absolutely take the reins. Take the reins.
Yawn. Anyway, so the ASU hosted Minnesota, number 2 ranked Minnesota, and I'm going to be very careful with... But I do want to drop a nice little nugget, but I'm going to be very careful with how I word it, so because you hear things when you work places. But it's an electric atmosphere, the game last night. It was disappointing that they lost, but honestly, they kept it close. They were in it to the end, and apparently I noticed some empty seats, so I was kind of calling sus, but apparently it's legit. It was not only a sellout, there was 5,109 people there.
Oh, wow.
I think it was the exact 5,153 tonight.
Okay.
So that was fun. So in the last game, Minnesota jumps up to a 2-0 lead in the first period. Dylan Jackson scores to bring him back within 1. Then Logan Cooley, because this kid is kind of a cheat code. He does the Michigan, it's 3-1, but Ryan Alexander doesn't let the game go away. I think that's 3 minutes left in the third. 3-2 finish. That's a good effort. I have nothing to complain about there. You went up against better competition. But this game was nuts. The game tonight, we record on Saturday because Richie has a real job to go to. But this game was nuts. So Alexander scores the first goal. That went from Judson and Mastrosimone. Then Matt Nyes from Logan Cooley and Snuggerud. And then Rhett Pitlick scores his 2-1 Minnesota. And then back-to-back goals for ASU, Comuncies and Ty Jackson. The Ty Jackson goal assisted by Donor and Mastrosimone. So ASU gets the lead. It's immediately tied again. Ryan Alexander says, no, thank you. We'll take this lead right back. That one from Mastrosimone. And Snuggerud and someone I don't care about score. And then it's a lead 5-4. Then with about, what was this, 3 minutes left, Jackson from Copperoo. We're tied. We're going to overtime. It's a bit of back and forth. It's a good chance for Minnesota. A couple of good rushes for ASU. I think that Septon Felter had a couple pretty solid saves here. And then Robert Mastrosimone who has probably been one of the best additions to this team via the transfer portal, scores the game-winning goal, and ASU at home in the Mullet upsets the number 2 ranked team in Minnesota. And not hyperbole, this is the biggest win in program history. That was a huge upset, and I know the record right now probably isn't looking the best because they did get swept against the Golden Knights. Unfortunately, I want to double check their record real quick. I want to say it's one game above 500, so it's 8-7-0. But with the caliber of opponent they just beat, I would be shocked if they don't at least sniff a ranking. I'm not saying a high ranking. What is it? It's the top 20 or 25 that get ranked in hockey. I would anticipate like ranked 19, ranked 20, because that's a huge opponent. And now they get a matchup next weekend in Denver against the number 1 ranked team. Look, I said it as a bit of a meme, kind of joking around with the coworkers, but it's like, if we can get one of the next 4 games, I'll be happy. These are really, really tough matchups, and Powers and the boys just don't shy away from those. I think Craig Morgan said it pretty well on Twitter, and hey, with this momentum, they might even be able to win one against Denver. Now, it's not going to be a blowout. It'll be like this if they do. It'll be a really close game, neck and neck, but there's a lot to be proud of. And I just the energy, a lot of the footage coming out, I think that, a couple people on Twitter that are within my own circles said it, and I agree with it wholeheartedly. ASU is a hockey school. Right now, I know the basketball program had, I think it was the biggest upset in their program history. I think a week or 2 ago. That was a really good win for them, but hockey right now is like, it feels like the place to be. It feels like the spotlight of ASU, probably because the Mullet Arena, probably because whatever. But coming from a club team to moving up to NCAA and actually competing with the big boys and being able to get players like TJ Septenfelter, Robert Mastrosimone, the Jackson brothers to all transfer over here, and the fact that we've also had some pretty decent names or kids of very notable players come through this system.
Yep.
So it's I don't know. I'm buying into the hype, and getting to see ASU basketball and hockey playing well right now is pretty good. I have to give a shout out because I'm a bit of an ASU shill at this point. I don't know if you guys could tell. I am a bit of an ASU shill when it comes to. You want to see it? You want to see it, Richie?
Is this a Desert Moon exclusive right here? We're seeing.
Might be.
Seeing another.
I don't have enough money for any more jerseys right now for a jersey haul, so it might be.
Let's see. Ooh.
Absolute beaut. They call it the Digiflame, I want to say.
Digiflame. That's a good name for it.
Because of this.
That's
one of
pretty
the
good.
Coolest designs, and I needed it. I love it. Thank you to the retail workers in there that let me record a little footage for my vlog. I asked ahead of time, and they gave me permission, so thank you for that. But I love this jersey. I'm probably going to buy another one, except for I might need to see if I can get it customized and put Dumbass or AC Sports Guy on the back of it. I don't know.
There you go. That's a good looking jersey. For our audio listeners, it's a ASU jersey. It's white. It's got on the shoulders going down the sleeves, it's a transition from maroon to yellow, and then in between that blending gradient, it's like hard digital lines, essentially kind of like a digital camo kind of transition thing.
If you're a nerd, think the Sonic Forces or Sonic Frontiers like marketing look, because the whole digital world thing with it, like that's it. And also because your boy has to do whatever the hell he can desperately to try to make connections. I'm joking, by the way. But I did slide into a couple ASU players' DMs, say, hey, great game, what a goal. Robert Mastrosimone replied.
Hey, there you go.
Live on the show. I'm not going to say what he said, though, but...
He said, who are you?
Hey, asshole, stop talking to me. It was not that. All
right, well... Do we want to transition from one big win into the other big win of the night?
Yeah. So Tucson wins. I don't know what the final score is yet because they won't update on my end. So do you have the update on your end?
Let me take a look. I don't have it personally. Oh wait, actually, I think I saw the video. They released the video. I think it was 3-1. They like the media down there posted a video on YouTube,
Right.
giving like game highlights. I think it was 3-1 win.
So they win 3-1 tonight, 3-1 the other night on the 23rd, and then they split a series with San Jose 6-3, and then get shut out 6-0 the next night. They did this thing where Tucson loves to start out the year hot. They will play very well, borderline above their head depending on how you want to look at it. Then they'll come back down to earth a little bit, but then they're kind of fighting back and getting some wins. I think the team looks really good, and the fact that I'm high on Liam Kirk. I think Liam Kirk is a good young player. I do want to talk about him in a second as well. But the fact that he couldn't crack the roster healthy, and I know he's coming off that injury. It's not like it's so easy to do or anything like that. Not everyone can be Jacob Chikrin scoring a point a game, right, coming back. But just the fact that he and even Colin Thyssen couldn't get into that many games shows that they've added depth and the team looks good. And that's where you're going to see a lot of these players that are going to be competing for a playoff spot playing right now. And that's fun to see for them. It's good to see Tucson succeed. I'll have to find my way down there. But
the score, just a quick little correction. The score was 2-1, not 3-1 tonight.
I thought it was 3-1 final.
Yeah. 3-1 final was the night a few nights ago's score.
That one against San Diego?
Yes. Yep.
All right. So, Liam Kirk gets sent down to Atlanta, where he's actually going to get to play. Now, unfortunately, statistically, that could be bad in the long run, because normally players that end up playing in the ECHL don't play in the NHL. But his first game in, he scored a couple of goals. He looked good. I know it's against lesser competition, but sometimes, like with the Lawson Krause thing, his first couple of goals were empty netters. Sometimes you just got to get your feet wet. You just got to get a little bit of confidence going.
Yep.
And you never know. So I'm hoping he'll be back on Tucson's roster in the next month. I have no idea what the long-term plans are. Obviously, GMBA is not sliding into my DM saying, "Hey, Matt, this is what our plans are for Liam Kirk." But I'm hoping that that's what we're going to see, because I feel like that would probably be best for him. But get some confidence up, get some production, and we'll see how it goes from there.
Yeah, hopefully we can get him back to the AHL. That's the, the likelihood of making the NHL is probably pretty low at this point for his career's trajectory. But, get him into the AHL, make him even a career AHLer. You don't want to see that a guy that is that's holding so much weight on his shoulders, not being able to at least put up a respectable pro career. Not saying that the ECHL is not respectable. It's just, it's not nearly as good of a league as like even the AHL.
Yeah, it's again, not being disrespectful. It's lesser competition. That's just, it is what it is. So, Liam, hope for the best for you, and we'll see how that plays out. One thing I do want to briefly mention is I noticed it the game I went to. Is the second series at home for ASU. Just very briefly, a little side tangent, then we'll move on. And then also my wife mentioned it today because she went to the game tonight, where it looks like Donor's gassed a lot of the times, and they finally moved him off center. He's back on the wing. I think Master Simone's on his other wing, and Ryan Alexander is centering him. Yeah. But do you think that it's possible the meme's gotten out of hand, and to some degree the whole royal bloodline meme might actually have some sort of pressure on a kid like that?
Yeah, I would definitely say so, especially being in ASU, right? Like there's a lot of weight on your shoulder. It's one thing if from Arizona and then he moves to the Eastern Seaboard college, or maybe even goes European, you're still watching a guy like that and you're like, hey, I'm rooting for you because you're an Arizona native, but you are in the center of it all, and people are putting a lot of weight on your shoulders. So I could see that it potentially is getting to him trying to in that context of him trying to do too much on the ice and overwinding himself. Pacing is very important, and even if he has the royal bloodlines, we still saw Shane Doan take some quick shifts there, and Josh has got to respect that lineage there, and maybe take some quick shifts as well.
Because I just think that, because I noticed it, and you can see it in the kids' eyes, like, like I said, that game I went to.
Yeah.
Especially when I've heard as many people, including someone that went to the game last night that was DMing me, hey, Doan looks gassed, or it was kind of like being a little, in my opinion, hypercritical of Josh Doan, excuse me. And I'm like, I don't see it as being, oh, he's bad. I see it as maybe, he wants to do too much, and you wind yourself, you gas yourself out, and then on a couple plays, maybe, they need you won't be able to get it done, or you won't be able to be like the lead man. So it's like, I just kind of want to briefly talk about that, because I also want to just get ahead of this and say I don't think it's a lack of skill. I don't think it's a lack of talent. He's been playing well. I want to at least acknowledge it,
I would also be curious too, like, caution your skepticism, people out there, because there's a lot of flu going around right now as it gets to cool off. There's seasonal flus, the big flu that took out the nation. I'm going to try not to say it so that
sick.
Yeah, so that we get demonetized. Joke's on you. We were never monetized.
We were never monetized
Yeah, no. But you know what I mean. So it doesn't get censored. But that one's going around. So you don't know. Like he could be kind of ill too. He could be under the weather, and that can absolutely be draining on your body. Even recovering it.
Well, yeah, you also have the long-term symptoms. Like my wife has some of the long-term symptoms. It takes a while for even your lungs to recover. Coughing does damage to your lungs. I don't know if you know that, especially if you're doing it over and over again for a prolonged period of time. But it's like I don't know. I found the comments and how it's actually become a pattern of noticing it to be a little weird, because it's like he gets results on the ice. You can tell he works hard. I just think he might work a little too hard sometimes.
Yeah, and that could be the case. Like it could be that too. It's just like a pacing thing. Like know where you got to pace, especially being a centerman. Centerman, it's like your job is so much harder than the wingers. Wingers can choose to cheat back and play defense, but centerman, you're always like, that is your job, is to back check.
I think honestly, putting him back on the wings probably going to benefit him, because again, I'm not saying he can't play center or nothing stupid like that, but I just feel he's better on the wing. He's serviceable as a center, but it's like I think that's his strength. But I'm also not the coach. I'm very much just a jackass. Recording a podcast,
and that's fine if he doesn't end up being a center either. Like this, long-term future-wise for the Coyotes, like we don't need him to be a center. If he chooses to be like a center during college time, or if he ends up moving to the wings like you're talking about, like that's not going to hurt us projection-wise in the long term. And I don't think it's going to hurt his projections in the short term at ASU either.
All right, well, I lost the previous segue of speaking of not projections, but I'm going to use the projections now. Speaking of projections, the Coyotes are not on pace to get Connor Bedard. Let's discuss.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's discuss these bastards. Look, I am loving this. I am loving the more competitive hockey. I did, and if you're watching this podcast, you have to know at this point. Eyes on Fantilli. Well, let's get Fantilli. Fantilli is great.
Yeah.
Main reason, I have done my best to not watch Bedard footage. I have done my best to basically be abstinent from Bedard footage is the pornography, and I'm not allowed to watch it. I'm a good Christian boy, all right?
All right.
But I, at work of all places, have been sullied. I have been deflowered, and I have seen this effing stud, and I'm like, dude, he after 100 games played, he's at 177 points.
Yep.
At the WHL. They made an exception for him to play there at 15 years of age.
Yep.
Because he's that freaking good. Everywhere he's going, the attendance is going up because they want to see Connor Bedard. I hate it. Again, we never finish last in the league. We never get best odds. We never pick first. But I would like to at least realistically project to get Adam Fantilli, something. So
Yeah.
let's talk about it. So Chychrun comes back, and so far, since Jacob Chychrun's been back, the Coyotes have not failed to record a point in a game. So this jerkwad needs to get traded away tomorrow. We gotta protect the tank at all costs.
He has looked like a man on a mission so far. He is absolutely
get the hell out of Arizona.
Yeah, yeah. And no, it's true. Like that game most recently in Detroit, he had 8 shots in that game as a defenseman. 8 shots. That is insane. And he scored on one of them, which granted it was a pinball shot, but hey, we don't ask how, we just ask how many. So I will definitely take that.
So, Bukestad, it was the Bukestad show. He had 2 goals, one of them being shorthanded and an assist. 3-3 tie going to the shootout. It's funny. Ingram, phenomenal game, 42 saves, great for him. They lost 4-3 in the shootout. And then 4-3 total.
This is the Predators you're talking about.
Yeah, the Predators game?
Yep.
Krauser getting a goal, Michelli another assist, and then they end up benching him for the next 2 games. Craig Morgan called it taking was it a step back, but it's apparently common practice. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
Craig Morgan hasn't lied to me yet.
A lot of people do that. I mean, even Clayton Keller did that, right? And you can make the argument, well, Tockett's not a good coach, it's fine, but Tocchet did that to Keller. Tocchet also did that to Steven Stamkos when he was coaching the Tampa Bay Lightning for a short period of time. A lot of these teams in general will sit a young prospect, a young, potentially all-star prospect for a few games. Let them see it from the top.
So then Gunther comes back after his game or 2 off. 2 assists in a game where Nick Schmaltz gets his first of the season, his second game back. Definitely making up for not putting that one home against Nashville. Bukestad, another goal. It's 2 in 3 games. And Krauser, 3 goals in 3 games. He's now the team leader with 9 goals. And Jacob Chychrun gets the assist on that 4th goal, the secondary assist. That was his first point since March 10th, 2022 at Toronto. I had to look that up just to be a bit of a jerk, if you will. 36 saves for Karel Vejmelka. And then the game against Detroit, I didn't think they had any business being in that one because they already go down 2-0 pretty quick. Schmaltz answers back from Chychrun. Osterley, that was a weird name to see pop up on my phone. I was like, what year is it? 3-1. Then J.J. Moser continuing his ridiculous season. Schmaltz and Keller each with the assist. And then Jacob Chychrun, man on a mission, 30 seconds left, puts it into overtime. They lose in the shootout, so that's another 4-3 finish. And Chychrun, 3 games, 1 goal, 2 assists, +4, and averaging about 23 minutes on ice. And I've just memorized that stat, how many times I've said it today. How ridiculous is it that he has come back and real quick, he is already above, I think, 10 players in terms of point totals.
Yeah, and he's rounding into form of the Chychrun that we're trying to sell, the Chychrun that we saw a few years ago. He is this dominant first line defenseman that can absolutely shut you down in both ends of the ice. He's not going to put up the points like an Erik Karlsson will, but he'll certainly dominate you in both ends of your ice and absolutely contribute to the score sheet.
Yeah, and look, I'm loving it because the better you play in the short term, you can get me a better trade value, and I would like my first and Matt Nyes, please.
Yeah.
I mean, he was right there at Mullet Arena tonight. You could have just, told him to stick around.
I will say though, how crazy would it be? I know that the idea is that Cooley would probably hit pro at the end of this season for his little 8 or 9 game stint or whatever. But how crazy would it be if they just didn't end up turning pro and it was Nyes and Cooley going into the portal? And they both go to ASU, and then you have that line that you're going to see on the Coyotes, which would be Cooley in the center, Nyes on one side, and Donor on the other side.
All I'm going to say is I've been saying it for months, at least a month, Too much. I've been saying it for a little while now. Logan, you ever watch this? And first off, you need to have a little bit less of a generic face, and or your teammates need to stop having the same haircut. I was around the area the entire day, like for the last 3 days. I couldn't recognize him out of a crowd. But Logan, hey, look at me right now. All right, stay in school for 1 more year, transfer to ASU, and just do that. I won't blame you. All right, I don't care if you pull a Hosa. It's not gonna be a stain on your legacy. Come on.
Yep.
Play for the Devils.
Excuse me. Yeah, that would be pretty crazy if he did it. I doubt he would. But it's a fun fantasy. We'll say that. It's a fun fantasy.
All I know is that if Logan Cooley had a Twitter, I think we should make a bot that tweets at him every day.
I'm pretty sure he does, but it's
fake,
hidden.
Or they were saying it was fake.
I don't know if it was fake or not, but I know that the Coyotes tagged him when they drafted him. So I've been stalking it, but I can't tell if it's him or not. There's been no photos or anything.
Well, like I saw that, and I saw him. Oh, I'm grateful to be drafted by the Coyotes, and then I saw like 2 or 3 replies. It wasn't very many, but it was just enough to a couple warning flags where it's like, oh hey, fake account, whatever. And I'm like, because I sent him a DM saying welcome to the pack or something stupid like that. So I'm like, did I send a 40-year-old, a balding 40-year-old role playing as an 18-year-old kid a DM? Is that a little sus?
I don't know. Coyotes B is gonna have to clear that one up. That was an oopsies on their part. If it was,
they still followed them. He gained a bunch of followers that day. Like a bunch of the verified accounts still followed him. Last I saw that account, but I still can't tell.
Yeah, me neither. I still follow him too, and I wonder, like, obviously if he's like, buy my crypto or something, then I'm like, all right, you're fake. Like, I know, but. I'm just sitting there waiting to see if that was the real Cooley account or not.
All right, so can we talk about, now that we got the ASU stuff out of the way and I got to be a little bit of a fangirl because ASU comes first, now can we talk about that Michigan and also the Connor Geeky goal that you had to have seen that replay. That was disgusting.
Yeah, we can talk about this. So we can talk. If you haven't seen these highlights, go on to anywhere. They're going to be playing. Winnipeg Ice is where Geeky plays, and Minnesota NCAA is where Cooley plays. We'll start with the Cooley one, since you were you able to see it in person, or were you running around?
For that one, I think I was up in the little the little premium seating area. I forget.
Okay.
I was running around doing something. That was a really busy night. But I remember looking over. I noticed they scored, and I saw a little the Minnesota player do a little celebration, and I was like, screw this, and walked off doing whatever. So I think I inadvertently caught the tail end. Of that Minnesota or that Michigan. Yeah. I'm still called the Minnesota since he plays for Minnesota. Screw it, because he even said he hates or dislikes calling it the Michigan. But it's like. I inadvertently caught the end of that and was just like so forks up boys that I didn't even care that Coyotes prospect Logan Cooley pulled it off, pulled the lacrosse goal. Like, dude, TJ Septenfelter is one of the best goalies in NCAA right now.
Yep.
And I know the last couple of games have to have lowered the save percentage, but it's still well over 920. He's been an animal. He had no chance.
No,
he had no chance on that, and to make, in my opinion, at the collegiate level, a either elite or borderline elite talent look hopeless.
Yep. Yeah, that's that. I'm just waiting for the day that we're gonna see him and Gunner on the same line, because if you remember last year, Gunner. Pulled off, I think, 2 lacrosse goals down in the WHL.
I think one was in the playoffs, or was in the lead up to the playoffs.
Something like that.
Disgusting.
Yeah, so having those 2 on the same line just shows you how crazy their creativity is. And even Keller's tried a few. Lacrosse goals. I remember sitting watching and sitting directly behind him, and he had it up on his stick, and it just kind of fell off, and he was like, "Nah, forget it." That was like a year or two back.
Does that feel like the middle-aged partner realizing they're getting up there a little bit and trying to do what the kids are doing? Just like as a meme, does it kind of feel like that just a little bit? Because it's like Keller's a great player, 20 points in 19 games, it's still above that point per game threshold. But it's like Keller, we love you for you. Geeky and Cooley, we love for the flashy stuff.
Yeah, I do think so. So like I think that lacrosse Michigan goal, it's kind of like a young generation kind of kid thing. But that's not to say that the older generation, the old young generation of players can't do it as well. I think what's his name? Svechnikov. I think he's roughly Keller's age, and he does it quite a few times.
They're both about 24. It's like Keller's an elder Zoomer, so he's still young, but like.
Well, it's not just that he's an elder Zoomer, but aside barring that injury, like it just shows you like how many games he's played in the NHL. Like he was like what, the third or second longest Ironman streak or something like that.
He was like at least the fifth.
Okay.
Active in the NHL, but he was like I think 300 games short of Burns.
Yeah.
And like however many hundreds of Kessel and Yans, but it's like, I really wish he wouldn't have got injured because that would have been really cool to have an actual Coyote as the Iron Man or go towards the Iron Man, because Keith Yandel hasn't been a Coyote in what has it been? Is it actually been a decade yet, or has it been like 8 years? 7 years.
I don't even remember. It's got to be close to a decade. 2012 was their last playoff run. I think that's when Yandels was traded, right?
I thought it was at least 2014. It probably was like a year or two after that when they were starting to blow things up.
Oh yeah. Because they traded him for Duclair. They traded him for Duclair, and it was the Domi Duclair show. So yeah, like 2013, 2014, somewhere.
Episode, I got to do a video on it one day where we just look at the Maloney era, and I know he had that New York Rangers connection, and how every trade happened to be Rangers or Chicago, and it was just those the only trade partners the Coyotes were allowed to have.
Yep. Yeah, that was pretty crazy.
And they usually won them, or at least got really good returns on them. But that's because Don Maloney was a great general manager. Did I say that out loud? I did.
I will disagree with you on that one, but
no, your point is denied. You are not. You're not. You know what? Go away, Richie. I don't think I asked.
I can point back to quite a few trades where his payoff was not very good, and also quite a few drafts where his draft was not very good.
Brandon Gormley is a stud.
I'm sure.
Mark Byzantine is still the goalie of the future.
Yep. I can point out a couple of those if you'd like.
I mean, look,
I'll say he wasn't
summer.
Yeah, he wasn't Peter Chiarelli terrible. Okay, that man was a walking meme.
GM. He was not a bad GM. He was especially for the budget we had.
Yeah,
but
that's the other big one.
Wasn't as, maybe the draft wasn't as good as it should have been. But rose tinted glasses. He's the only one that's gotten us past the first round.
That's true.
He's the only one that makes us better than Toronto.
That's true.
Just saying. Anyway.
Yeah, and there were a couple of good.
Traveling in Calgary, it took a little while to get somewhere.
There was a couple of good pickups that he had. There was that deadline where he picked up Wojtek Wolski and Lee Stempniak, and they were.
You guys remember Wojtek Wolski?
Yeah, they were dirty. I remember that. I remember.
Scotty Upshaw. What was that trade deadline? Like
I remember.
little member bears. We are getting off track, but anyway.
Yeah, we are.
So that geeky goal was disgusting. The Cooley goal.
Yeah. Oh yeah, let's talk real quick about that Gigi goal. So if you didn't see it, essentially he was coming into the zone. Somebody tried to hit him. He brushes off the hit, then is heading towards the net. I'm drawing a blank on what the word is. Not charging towards the net, but you're moving aggressively towards the net. I can see the word, but I can't say it. But he was I'll just say heading towards the net. He was heading towards the net, and he pulls it to his backhand, kind of gives a little look like he's going to pass and then just backhands it short side on the goalie. And the goalie didn't even realize that it went in. Dirty play.
Was disgusting.
Real.
And again, like, for whatever reason, and it looks like his skating's gotten a little better. Like, that was...
Yeah, that play specifically.
You don't do that if you're a terrible skater. Now, again, that doesn't mean he's a fantastic NHL level skater yet, but that's improvement. You're pulling stuff like that at Euronews. That is improvement. So,
yep.
It seems like he's kind of taking the right lessons, and I know a lot of people were hard on the pick. I still never personally got it. I stand by that. Like, I think this is a damn good pick. And the fact that if he keeps playing as well as he does, that could be like your third line center. Cooley's your second, and tell me who has a better top three like center spot. We're just gonna assume Fantilli at your 1C, or we trade for a 1C. Maybe it's Austin Matthews, but who's gonna have a better top three centers?
It's pretty damn good. If you actually put Draisaitl on the second line, I would say Draisaitl, McDavid, and Hopkins would be a pretty damn good 1, 2, 3.
Nuge
but
is really good. Yeah, I'll give him that. But it shows how bright this future is, and it's like I can't wait till we get there. I don't like how I'm gonna be 30 when that happens. That's a kick to the nads.
Yeah, that's true.
But
thanks for reminding me of that one.
Right. Yeah, you're knocking on the doorstep right there, bud. We need to start popping out some kids, old man.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that, and I'm just like, damn, dude, I just don't have the time. I've been wanting kids, but I just yeah, I've been wanting kids, but I'm just like, man, I don't got the time or the money. Like, yep.
Well, yeah, because like those of you who don't know, Richie manages his money right. Let's just say I've been to his house a few times.
Thank you.
Good with the stuff. So let's just say if he wants to continue to have nice things, you don't introduce the Rugrats.
Yeah. Especially with like the goals that we have for where we're wanting to go. In March, we're wanting to go to Japan for 2 weeks and other crazy trips and stuff like that. We want to get a lot of the traveling, like our lifetime traveling, out now while we still can, while it's still like fun. Because some people choose to have kids early and then they do the traveling once the kids have left the nest, and then you're like in your 40s and 50s and you're tired all the time and you can't experience all the fun stuff when you're older. So that's kind of our goal, our little mantra here. Sorry to take us off the rails and get real serious, but
that's just Richie's way of saying you're going to have 2 episodes of me just with a thumb in my ass trying to make this show pop off.
There you go. Yeah, actually, now that I think about that, we're going to have to figure something out, because I haven't gotten an exact timeline, but I know that sometime in March we're going to end up in Japan. So
all I know is that I could try to carry a show, or I could just harass a couple other YouTubers I know and say, you want to co-host this train wreck with me, and the editing's going to be terrible for 2 weeks, but hey, we'll figure it out.
I'll give you some pointers. I'll give you some tips and tricks to allow you to get to the same quality of editing that I'm up to. No.
Dude, you're such a snob. You saw my art house Instagram video.
Yeah. It wasn't bad.
Look,
it wasn't
for
bad.
As not great as it was, that pitch I pulled out of my ass was not bad.
Yeah. No, I liked it. It was a good idea. And you picked clips that complemented it. It was a great first little look, and for the listeners who don't know what we're talking about, I was showing him some software for editing, and he was getting his first practice in on a first edit. And I will tell you, Matt, it was pretty damn good compared to my first edit, because my first edits were really bad. I'll just say that. There's a reason I have them hidden, so...
All I will say is that that edit is literally how I make it through life. I will have a vague idea of what's going on. I will just march forward, and then as I get a little more information, I'm like, here's another little more vague idea I have of what's going on. I'm just gonna charge, and that's usually works out.
Yeah.
Not all the time, but it works out. So hey, I can't complain. Anyway, Coyotes related.
Yes.
I do want to kind of pick your brain here a little bit. Schmaltz has looked phenomenal.
Yep.
As he's come back.
Yep.
Literally, he's looks like he hasn't missed a day. Honestly, do you think that because that's how he's playing, it would be worth it to shop him?
Okay, so you
don't rock the boat.
Here's my thinking. Okay. Mm-hmm. This is the hard one. Nick Schmaltz cannot stay healthy. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. And that's the sad reality. It's great we're in La La Land right now as he's putting up points. But the sad reality is that he cannot stay healthy. If we traded him, which in my opinion, I think we should. If we traded him, this is one of Clayton Keller's best friends. Excuse me. One of Clayton Keller's best friends. One of his line mates. Somebody that he kind of cares for. If you're going to be building your team around Clayton Keller, even though, yes, it is a business, you also don't want to piss off your employees, you know? And my question would be, how much would trading Nick Schmaltz piss off Clayton Keller? And if you are truly building around Clayton Keller as your future, which I think you should, I don't know if trading Nick Schmaltz would be the right choice. This team is not strapped. They're not in a burden. The only argument that I could really see of trading Nick Schmaltz right now would be if there was an insane ask that somebody fulfilled, or he like chose that he wanted to move on. Like that would be the only two options. I don't think you trade him just to trade him.
Let's add a little bit of context here. Let's make it fun. This is just for fun.
Okay.
Nothing else. I do not believe this even as a good idea. I just think it'd be a fun discussion.
Okay.
What if, with the wealth of young talent coming in, there's even a minute possibility? Again, not what I actually think. Just one more time. That maybe Keller would now potentially be expendable down the line, especially with how much he's producing.
It could happen. It could happen, absolutely. I mean, the running meme is... Yeah,
I think they should.
I mean, the running meme is that the Coyotes are just the farm team for the NHL. And do we just perpetuate that meme? I would say it has to be an extraordinary overreach, or over giving of supply, right?
All right, so let's say
it cannot be. Yeah, it cannot be just a trade for trade, just to trade him out.
Okay, so Arizona fans love Austin Matthews.
Okay.
So just follow me down this rabbit hole.
Okay.
Again, just for fun, just for fun. All right. So the day when the new year kicks in, and that no trade clause in the final year of his contract comes out, he publicly says, "I would like to. I'm not going to renew my contract." He pulls what Matty Tkachuk did and just lets him know, I'm not renewing.
This is Austin Matthews.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. So he lets him know on the day, which I think would be the funniest thing to do. But, and then he says, "I only want to go to Arizona," because he has no move. He can veto any trade.
Mm-hmm.
So, GMBA, I think, would not trade for him and just say, "Okay, well, he'll just come to us as a UFA then," and then just offer him whatever the hell he wants. We have the cap. There's your $16 million. You'll be worth it just in ticket and jersey sales, even if he fell off a cliff, God forbid. Knocking on wood. The second he got here, he'd still be worth it for the ticket sales and the jerseys, right? But the hypothetical, what if BA's like, you know what? Let's do it. Would the pack? Could the package involve like Keller and Schmaltz? Because like you're not going to decrease the value by 90% just because he says he only wants to go to Arizona. It's still a top 2-3 player in the league, but if there was for whatever reason that mythical desperation of okay, let's get it done right now, what do you think that would be even remotely on the table? Because they would want a win now player. They wouldn't want to go to a rebuild. They would want players that can slot right in. Do you think that would be the minimum before the conversation to start?
So let's since we're playing hypothetical here, I'm gonna set some parameters too. Let's say that the no trade clause isn't there and that anybody could trade for him. Right. Just because if there is a no trade clause and he says he's only going to Arizona, well, you can just what is it? Ryan Kessler that situation real bad. For you youngins there, Ryan Kessler did that to the Vancouver Canucks. He wanted to go to Anaheim, and he said, "I will only go to Anaheim," and Anaheim offered them like nothing for him for his value. But let's just say that like hypothetically, people can trade for Austin Matthews. I would say that a Nick Schmaltz, Clayton Keller, for a Austin Matthews walking out the door, next year, I would say that a Clayton Keller, Nick Schmaltz, maybe like a second would probably get that done. Would I do it? Probably not. And the reason I say that is because while yes, this team has desperately needed a centerman, if Keller's going the other way, I'm really curious to know how much Austin Matthews really wants to play in Arizona. So I do understand that it's his home team, and I do understand that there is a real possibility that he could potentially want to go and save the organization, right? Air quotes. But also, Clayton Keller's like his best friend. Like, those two are like two peaches in a pod. Right? They're always hanging out, even in the offseason and stuff like that. If Keller's going the other way, I don't think he wants to be here. Like, and not the sense that he doesn't want to play for the team. It'd be, let's go to Arizona and try to turn the team around. But I lose, I lose my best friend. Like, I don't see that working. I don't know. I don't see that working. But if you were to do a different trade package, you could maybe make it work. Like a Nick Schmaltz with, a couple of defensive prospects and like a first maybe might get that done. I don't know. Yeah, because it wouldn't be this year's draft pick. It would be the start of next year, right? Mm-hmm. I think that next year's his last year.
Because next year's his last year, so I think right when the calendar switches over, that's when it officially kicks in. All right, so now let's pull back. Let's pull back to being more realistic. I thought that would be fun. I thought it'd be interesting because I kind of feel like we said all we had.
I will say this. If there is a trading option for Austin Matthews and you talk to him and he's like, yeah, I want to extend my contract with Arizona, I would seriously think about it. First line centers don't grow on trees. I'm sorry, that's just the truth.
Especially top 3 players in the league.
Yeah,
that want to be playing for your team. Do not grow on trees.
I'd be open to giving Toronto whatever reasonably possible, and that would also allow Clayton Keller to stay on this team. So, like, not to be mean here, but does Gunner become expendable? A Nick Schmaltz Gunner package?
All right, I'm gonna.
Nick Schmaltz Gunner. Right Nick Schmaltz Gunner geeky package. Would that get the trade done?
Anyway, we're not fun anymore. This is not fun anymore. Anyway, let me pull us back. I thought that could be a fun little,
sorry, I'm hitting too close to home now.
Yep. As soon as you start talking about Gunner, I was almost willing geeky, but you went Gunner first. So I think that we have to fight next time I go to your
Okay,
house.
what about Schmaltz, geeky, and like a second or a first?
I do it in a heartbeat. Love geeky, but geeky projects to be top 6 maybe. Austin Matthews is a number 1 center, and those don't grow on trees. Anyway, so just to kind of also, I guess, reestablish the importance of Nick Schmaltz for the locker room too. If the same Austin Matthews things happens, do you think Clayton Keller, not in the uncaring sense, but do you think he'd really care if you're trading away Schmaltz and bringing back in Matthews? Like, do you think it would be a trading Devo really ruining the chemistry or the something
Yeah,
was
hurting
different
the
about
lock.
Chicken?
Yeah, hurting
It was, like,
hurting
that
the
hurt.
locker room chemistry in that sense. I think it will sting. But at the same time, if you're bringing a Matthews back, I think Keller could get behind that. I think Keller could be like, okay, this is sick. My first line center is Austin Matthews. I think that he could. I think he would be willing. He would be like, it would hurt because he likes Nick Schmaltz, and I think those two are really good friends. Obviously, I can't look into their personal lives, but from everything that I've seen, it looks like they're really good friends. I would say, yeah, I think he would. I think be okay with that.
Now, that package would probably have to be... Again, this is just running off of the basis that he has that no-trade clause, and he specifically says only Arizona. Because that still does lower the value, but you're not going to get like an 80% discount, 70% discount. So it's like, you got to think it'd be Schmaltz, Geeky. There has to be at least one more prospect, I think, and a first.
There's
still a top 3 player.
So there's Soderstrom, which I don't know how high his capital would be, but as for where he was picked, he was an 11th overall pick.
Yeah, I would throw Soderstrom and Barrett Hayden if you wanted. And the thing is, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess Hayden.
This with you for a second. What is with all the Hayden hate?
Well, he hasn't been putting up points, right? I think that's the reality is that. This is a guy who is supposed to be a top 6 center this year, and he's struggled mightily to be a third line center.
Well, the thing is, I've even seen within the Coyotes fan base, I'm not calling like the names out or anything, but I just want to talk about the idea that I've seen, where it's like they're even saying how bad his defense is. And look, I don't know if I'm not paying close enough attention, or if it's just these specific individuals dislike Hayton that much. I feel like we're watching 2 different players. Because I know he's a -10, but he's also playing against the best lines. He's going out there against the best players, eating up very valuable minutes. I don't know if the play has started to decline defensively. I don't know if I'm gaslighting myself by trying to be a little too open to someone else's viewpoint on this, but I feel like we are watching 2 different players because defensively he's good.
So when he's in his defensive zone, he looks pretty good, but it's the Nick Schmaltz effect where Nick Schmaltz looks pretty good in his defensive zone if he's there. The problem is that Barron Hayden, while I do like the guy, he is not the fastest player on this team. And the problem is that he does like to play a lot of net front, and he also likes to kind of gamble a bit when it comes to the other team breaking out. So he will gamble a bit to try to pick off a pass or something like that. And that's where the defensive breakdowns lie, is that when you're gambling like that and a team is streaking the other way because your gamble failed, you're not going to catch them and back check them because he's not the fastest player. That's what I've seen so far. At the same time, he also doesn't have the greatest wingers that he's been playing with. I thought that he looked all right when he was playing on that. I think that first line, or the air quotes first line. I don't know. Tournier, he moves people all around. Keller could be on the third line,
the fourth
but
line or third line is considered the first line.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
That out to start, so it's weird. But I get what you're saying. He was playing with Keller
first line talent
when they knocked
Yeah.
Boyd down a line, which nothing against Travis Boyd. I think that did benefit for a little bit. Don't know if it's just, hey, it works for a little bit, break it up again.
I thought
again later.
I thought the Detroit game, Boyd did pretty well on that first line.
But he always plays well.
Yeah.
He's been consistently good. Not great. He's had some moments, but it's he's a good player. He's not going to get the production he is now on any other team because he's not going to get top 6 minutes on any other team. The meme was, first line center Travis Boyd because he was our first line center. But you wouldn't be that anywhere else. So it's nothing against him, but when you have other better talent coming in, you also got to make sure to give them looks too. And I think Hayton looked fine when you had him playing with Keller and Gunner. And it's I know an elite center can lift up his line mates. An elite coach can lift up a mediocre team. or even turn a bad team into an okay team, a decent team. But it's like Hayden, I don't think is elite. I think he's just good. So you kind of got to give him something to work with. But it's like I just don't know if, like I said, I was gaslighting myself, trying to be too reasonable, or it's like, cause I feel like I'm watching two different players. Do you think maybe putting him up against slightly lesser competition, so second line more instead of the first line, do you think that helps mask some of it, or is it just because he's a gambling man?
I don't know. So like, because it's so weird because I hear the argument of, oh well, he's going up against good competition on like the third line. He's pairing up against first lines night in and night out. But when I'm like actually doing the eye test, like watching his game, I don't often see him going up against the first line. Sorry, that's just my vision of it. And if he's already struggling, like in that situation where he might be put up against a few first lines, I don't know if bumping him up one line to like, let's say the second line to give him still lesser competition, air quotes, but to have better line mates. I don't know if that does that all that much. I don't think that moves the needle. The hard part with Barrett Hayden is I think that honestly he could be a really good back-checking winger, but the problem is that they're not going to put him on the wing because he's our best face-off man. So like he deserves to be a centerman because of the face-off, but for when we're talking about like individual effort, like in both sides of the zone or in both zones, like I don't know how much there is there as a centerman. There was a lot when he was drafted from the Greyhounds, and he looked really good in the juniors, but I've seen a lot of defensive breakdowns in his game, at least this year.
I think it is time to bully Richie.
Yeah.
I remember so far throughout this season, you've been the one feeding all the he's going against the first line narrative.
Yep.
And I noticed it too.
Yep.
But mostly after you pointed it out, now you're saying, oh, now he's not doing it. I don't know, Richie.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it. Maybe it's recency bias because of the past week of games. You know, it could have been that he was going up against first line talent. The first couple of weeks, especially when we were watching those Boston games when they were getting blown out like 7-2 or whatever. But recently, you got to remember, I have like the brain of a chipmunk. So like anything that's like over a month old information wise, it's gone. It's already out of my head. So it'll come back into my head about 2 years from now once the squirrel goes and grabs the nuts and is like, oh yeah, I remember that. But right now it's gone. But for most recently, the past couple of the past couple of weeks, like I haven't been seeing him going up against like first line talent consistently. I don't know. Like I get that you struggle. You guys stay. What's the saying? Like you struggle to survive so that you could. It's like live to fight another day. Like that's essentially what the saying is. And like I get that if the points aren't there, but he is like defending really well, then it is what it is. Like he's just not a points guy, but he can be a really good defense guy. But ultimately, like once again, going back to the defense thing, like I see him in front of the net a lot, and then he's the furthest player back from the defensive zone, and he has to skate all the way back.
Do you think it'd be beneficial to just trade him then? Because obviously the value's not going to go up.
I don't know, because the value's probably at its by now, right? You'd think so.
It's recovered a little bit, maybe.
Maybe? I mean, don't get me wrong. It can get lower. He could be in the AHL, and then it's really low. But where he is on this team currently, as long as he's still in the NHL, like this is kind of the lowest point for him. I don't know. Like personally, I don't think you end up trading him just because, at least for the year or two, these year or two, you still have to let the centerman, grow down in the AHL and in the juniors and minors and stuff like that. So ultimately, he's a warm body, and in that sense, he can kind of stay in that 2 to 3 centerman role. I don't. It's hard with him, man. I'm bummed so far from his play this year. I really am, and he came into the preseason. I mean, this is why preseason doesn't mean anything. Preseason, he was 2 points per game. He looked really good. And there's just not much to show. Like, if there's defensive breakdowns that he's having currently and he's still putting up points, then I don't think I'm complaining as much. But when you're not putting up points and you're not defensively responsible in that sense of, like, being a shutdown guy, like, then there's no upside, essentially, right?
Well, as someone like, and I've been pretty consistent on this as well. If Hayton is a 3C, it's fine.
Yeah.
I don't really care too much about the points. I'd like more depth scoring, but if you're only expecting a third line role, I think it's fine. But he's still in that phase where he doesn't want to be third line. He wants to be top 6. So it's like I can see the disappointment. I just don't understand, like, the slander is the only thing that I'm not understanding. But it's something that we'll have to keep an eye on because he's still young. Like, he's still... I think he's trended in the wrong direction, but I still think there's time for his game to solidify and kind of get where he needs to be. But at the same time, I don't know. I don't want to be too negative on the kid because I like him, but if we're talking like this, and if we're talking like it, you cannot tell me that GMBA, Andre Tournier, guys behind the scenes aren't having even remotely similar conversations if they're noticing the same things.
Yep.
So, depending on how I see it. So it's like, at this point, it's the last of the old regime. Do you just try to package Hayton and Soderstrom, get them out of your system, and essentially have a fully, like, restocked shelf? Like, you threw away the ravioli from 3 years ago, and you're like, I'm going to replace all this with food that I picked out, that I want.
I can absolutely see it happening. Whether they should do it, man, that's tough. So Hayden, it's looking pretty bad in terms of, like, his career growth so far this year, which is really unfortunate because about this time is when I would see him needing to be taking the next step. And if he's not, then he's not going to probably take the next step in his future. Obviously, there's a lot of players that prove those criticisms wrong who go on to another team and end up exploding, i.e. Kirby Dach with Montreal. Ultimately, with Soderstrom, I still think that there's something there, and D-men always take longer to grow. They always do.
Goalies.
Yep. And people just think that, like, a player's just going to walk in and be Cale Makar in a year, but most defensemen, the vast majority of them, it takes years and years and years of repetition in order to master that defensive side of their game. Defense is the hardest thing as a skater, I should say. I don't know about goaltending. I have no clue how goaltending works. I'll be honest with you.
It doesn't.
Yeah, but as a skater on ice, defense is one of the hardest things to really teach somebody. It truly is. Like, I know people are going to be surprised when I say that, but, like, when you're talking about an elite defensive player versus an elite offensive player, how many of those do you see in the league comparatively? It's probably double in the terms of offensive players to defensive players. There's a 2-to-1 ratio there.
Goal scoring's been going up league wide for at least the last couple of seasons. Like,
yeah,
I know you have this, and I know this is basically gonna be basketball, and it was from NBA 2K. But, like, when Kobe Bryant was talking about how you go from, oh yeah, you'll have a handful of years of dominant big men, then the game will change around them, and then you have more, perimeter shooters. Then game will change around that, go back to big men. So where it's like, even goaltending, I think the hockey guy Shannon was talking briefly about it. It's like, hey, goaltending numbers are also down, save percentages are down, it comes down to, hey, everyone is figuring out this generation of goalie. They're figuring out the goalies. Next generation tries something different, does something differently. They have more footage on how the offense is working. Oh, hey, now here's how I goaltend against that. Then it takes the shooters a couple of years to, figure out how.
It's
on the grand scale figure them out.
It's ebb and flow, and it makes sense. That's kind of how sports is, right? Like, and not just sports. It's also video games and stuff like that. We call that the meta, right? And metas change. That's just the reality, right?
Card games, meta, yep.
Yep. and that's all sports and card games and things like that. There's a meta, and it fluctuates and ebbs and flows, and that's just the reality. And yeah, I do agree with that saying that, we could see the league getting bigger, and as scoring goes down again, right? The bigness starts to become too much because there's too many big guys and they're all just plowing into each other, not scoring. And then we see our Martin St. Louis start coming back around. Our Connor Garlands, right? These short kings that start scoring.
I mean, so it's like the reason I say also, like, side note, the reason I say goaltending just doesn't work. Ask anyone from even the armchair GMs to, I guarantee, if you can get in contact with professionals, hey, how do you scout goaltending? Hey, how do you do you coach goaltending for long-term success? They're going to tell you whatever, they do, but if they're ever honest, they have no effing clue. Because, goaltending is so, not from the basics, not the fundamentals are the same, but,
it's a crapshoot. How many times have you
seen an elite top 5 goaltender, and 2 years later they're out of the league, or they're struggling to keep a backup job?
Or how many
rise back?
How many repeated first-round picks are used on goaltenders that don't do anything? That don't make their careers in the NHL.
Why do you think there's a stereotype, oh, you do not take a goaltender in the first round? It doesn't happen very often. What, was Spencer Knight the last one? I think he was
Wallstat,
you're right, Wallstat.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not, it's the exception, not the rule. I guarantee if we went back, 20, 25, 30 years, you wouldn't even have, on average, one first-round goaltender per year.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know, but yeah, goalies are one of those things you never take first because you just don't know. You honestly don't know. You're shooting like a shotgun when it comes to goalies. You pick 3 and you're like, I hope one of you makes it because we don't know.
Pretty much it's like Aiden Hill, good backup NHL goaltender.
Yep.
Not sure how much on the 1B you want to give him workload-wise, but sometimes he thrives, other times he doesn't. I've seen him look terrible. I've seen him look great. Joey Decord, I think, is a decent goaltender. All right, another name. Give me another, mediocre-sounding NHL goaltender or someone that might float around.
Well, you got Knight and Bobrovsky there. Those are two kind of 1A, 1B type goalies. Man, you're putting me on the spot here for goaltending.
Wait, I'll use those. So, 2.5 years ago, whatever. When he first signed
the
that
Blues.
Contract.
Blues, the Binnington and the other guy are
true.
Back and forth.
Binnington. So it's when Binnington has that breakout year, would you tell me with a straight face right now that Joey Decord is going to be better than Jordan Binnington in a couple years? Would you believe me if I said that?
Yeah, I mean, especially if we're fresh off the Stanley Cup, right? I would say no. Of course not. Binnington's he won the Stanley Cup. He's got to be one of the best goalies for the next 5 years at least, right?
So, hey, Bobrovsky, would you believe me if I said that in 2 years, Aiden Hill would be technically more reliable? And I'm not backing this up with, here are the raw numbers. This guy had X amount more. I'm just talking about, would you believe me if I said these things? And then the fact that Aiden Hill has shown some more stability, some more reliability, and it's and I know there was that bounce back last year, which is good. I like Bobrovsky. But when it looked like his career might be done,
yep.
And that was a year or two after,
I mean,
Aiden Hill would have technically been better.
If you want a history lesson here, my favorite history lesson with goaltending is This is one of my favorites, which is 2010. The Chicago Blackhawks win the Stanley Cup. Antti Niemi is their goaltender. He looked amazing that year. He looked like by far the best goaltender in the league. And then the next year he's traded to San Jose, and he's letting in like 5 goals a game. And then he's out of the league in like a year. It's crazy.
Goalie, it's such a weird position. Like, I do not envy goalie coaches. I do not envy any scout that has to scout them. Because, like, look, TJ Septenfelter, as an example, I've got to see a good amount of his game. I think he's a very good goaltender. Do I think he could be an NHL starting goaltender? I'm not going to lie to you. I have no idea.
Yep.
I think
look at Ivan. Look at Ivan Prosvetov. Look at those numbers when in juniors. He was in a league. He's in the CHL where goalies historically get blown up, right? And he was posting like 940 save percentages in the juniors, like insane numbers. And then he's struggled here in the systems, in the pros.
And, like, he'll look really good, and then it'll taper off, or he had a really bad year, or a lot of bad stretches, and it's like, it's a weird position. It is a weird position. So, yeah, no, goalies, I don't envy. Don't envy you. Not whatsoever. But, so, I don't know. That was all nice little fun stuff we got to talk about. To reel us back in, is there any other topics we missed, things you might want to discuss, talk about, touch on?
I just got some personal stuff I'm going to throw out into the universe real quick for like 30 seconds, but we are over our time limit, and it is getting late, and I'm going to have to edit this. So I'm going to say we're going to need to cut this off soon here. As for personal stuff, I'm going to say that I am approaching my quad being built. It has been a real pain in the tuchus getting that damn thing going, but it is approaching completion. It's set for well over a decade, and so everything was just dry rotted. All the hoses, all the gaskets, everything on it was completely dry rotted. So I've been in the process of cleaning it all up, and of course I'm finally done with everything, and I'm like, all right, I can finally drain the oil, give it a fresh thing of oil, go buy some gasoline, and give her a start. And the drain bolt for the oil was completely just seized onto the damn quad, and I literally snapped one of my sockets, the socket, trying to get the thing off, and it eventually came off after I said we're not playing around anymore, and you pissed me off, and I pulled out the blowtorch and heated it up. I was like, oh, we're playing those games, I see. So I heated it up, and then I have a pole that I use to like get leverage, and I gave it the ye olden pole snap, and it finally broke free. But now my bolt is ruined and my socket, so I have to go buy a new bolt, and I can't even drop the damn oil because I won't have anything to plug the oil with because the bolt is ruined. So yeah, it's been a never-ending process with that damn quad, but I can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Run to it, Richie. Run to that light.
Yep. Getting close. It was my childhood quad. It was something that meant a lot to me, and when my mom passed away, I got it and inherited it, and it means a lot to me, even though it's kind of like a old beat up crappy quad. I mean, realistically, I couldn't sell it for more than like $1,200 at best. It is. If anybody knows ATVs, it's a Yamaha Blaster from 1990. So it's not like some highly touted machine, but it means a lot to me personally, and so I'm trying to get her back onto the dirt roads. That's
better than my personal story for the week.
What's your personal Digimon story that you want to tell me?
It's not Digimon actually.
Oh, okay.
So, apparently I didn't do my seat check well enough today, and I had to go tighten some locking bolts. Any Canadians that are not watching, but if you're watching, go away, or else this might get turned into national headlines for the next 3 years. So go there. I had channel locks and the half. Oh, not. I shouldn't give the exact measurement. I had channel locks and the proper wrench, and channel locks wouldn't grip it properly because I don't know how the hell this locking nut did it, but it felt seized. So I had to go run down and get another one of the proper the proper wrenches and fix it. And I had like the dudes around me. Like I had one dude chirping me while I was doing it. They scored the tying goal like right behind me when I was fixing this. And I made sure to be determined. I had to run around the arena like two times. I was out of breath because I'm fat. And I said no seat defeats me. And that's my personal story. I got a high five on my way out.
Nice. Very nice.
Coming in to save the day.
Very nice.
Very nice. Like, I thought you checked the seats. And I'm like, I did. How the hell did I miss that?
Yep. All right. Well, I think it's time to go to sleep. It's 1 o'clock in the morning here.
I'm not even gonna finish editing this deck over here. I'm gonna leave it as is. As soon as we're done, I'm just gonna. Well, actually, I gotta upload this footage. I'm just gonna turn everything else off except for the PC, monitor it, everything, and just upload it and go to bed.
Alrighty. All right. Well, I will see all of you listeners later. Thank you so much for watching. If you are, enjoying what you're listening to. I don't know how you've made it this far, 35 or 36 weeks in. I shouldn't say, 36 weeks in. I feel like I'm saying that wrong.
We're not pregnant, Richie. You don't have
36
to go weeks.
Yeah, 36 episodes in. That's pretty crazy. And thank you for giving us your attention for these hour and a half every week. And so yeah, if you can like whatever you're listening to this on, give us a follow, subscription. You know it. I mean, it really does help us. So I appreciate it. And time for nap time.
Way.
Nap time.
No, I'm tired.